Hello, fiber friends. It's Marianne from Yarnwork Studio, and today we're going to do another this to that, another experimentation using a hand-dyed braid that's made of comb top, and then putting it on my drum carder and seeing what we can do with it. So this is a beautiful braid of untreated or non-superwash, if you will, merino from Hidden Pond Yarns, and she has some gorgeous fibers. She's based in Ontario. She dyes a ton. I don't know how she dyes as much as she dyes, but I have I think 2 braids of this. I have part left. I'm not sure how much. That's why I just got my scale out. I'm gonna weigh it, but I do have some left over from when I spun this up in a worsted spin, just spinning right off the braid, off the comb top. So this is some left over from that. Don't worry about these thick parts. That's just on a storage bobbin of mine. It's super bouncy. And then I have a full big skein where I did 2 plies of something else and 1 ply of this, I believe. I can't even remember. I'd have to go back and look. But first I want to see how much fiber I have left. And then my plan with this one is to drum card it to give it more of a semi-woollen prep. Which I did in my last video, but I'm going to try to keep some color integrity. Okay, so this is 112 grams. So that's perfect. That is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to pull it apart first just to look at it. I think I had to rebraid this one myself, and I don't feel confident on my rebraiding skills. But this is basically 1 full skein's worth. And the last video I did, which was my first time trying to drum card a fiber braid, it actually went pretty well, and I really enjoyed the spin and the finished yarn. I don't have it. I did post it in a short and put it in my this or that playlist, but it's drying right now because I just washed it, so I can't show you it because it's in the middle of drying. But that took all the color that was in the braid and just blended it all together. This one, I would like to be much more intentional about it. So what I plan to do is I'm going to open up the fibers and I'm going to separate colors. So I'm going to basically pull this staple length out here and just kind of put them into these small little sort of staple length groups of different colors. And then I'm going to figure out how I'm going to drum card it. And we'll drum card it in this video and prep a bat. Well, it'll be several bats, because if this is over 100 grams, I'm probably going to do 4 bats. And we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to split it up and we'll come back. Okay, so I have separated it into sort of 3 color families. And I wasn't being really too particular, but it is hard to pull a braid apart and separate the colors in a really nice, clean way anyways. So these ones are all sort of the more purple pieces, and there's about 30 grams of that, and then 25, 30, somewhere in there. And then these ones are all more sort of the earthy gray brown pieces, and I have about 35 grams of that one. And then these ones are all the blues, including, where there's darker bits and lighter bits. And I have around 50 grams of this, so I've split this into sort of 2 groups. What I'm going to do is I plan to do 1 pass through with, and I haven't really planned it out fully yet, but 1 pass through with each color. So the purple, 1 pass through with brown, all as separate bats, and then I'm going to make 2 little bats with the blues. And then from there, I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do a second pass where I'm going to mix them up and blend them in a certain way, so that I will end up with something I love, hopefully, that I can do. Again, the point is to make it opened up and more airy, so it becomes more like a semi-woolen prep rather than a worsted prep. And I can, easily do long draws, spin it faster, spin it more airy, and come up with a sort of different finished yarn rather than worsted yarn that you mostly end up with when you spin from a braid of comb top. So here we go. I'm going to start with the purple because I think it's going to be super fun. And again, I am going to put all of this onto the carder for the 1 pass. And last time, what I ended up doing that I liked the best was really kind of just fluffing these up like clouds And I really did like that. What I think I'm going to try to do is kind of put all the lighter clouds over here, and then medium, and then darker purple. I don't really know if I want to have this much intentionality with it, but I definitely like having it go in all kinds of directions. Maybe I'll put this here. It's also a little bit lighter. Let's try something like this. I do have my headphones in today, so you may not be able to hear the sounds of the carding as much. Very nice. Nice clean liquor, which is great. I'm gonna grab my brush. Next one. So my goal really is to not have each bat be super uniform in color. Like, I don't want it to just end up blending so much so that it's just the same color all the way through. However, I think it's kind of unavoidable. As I learned last time, the finished skein it was very much a very uniform blue color. So, I'm gonna fill with this and see, but I may end up with a pretty blended purplish blue, but I only want to do 2 passes total. So that's different from last time. I ended up doing 3 passes. Let's see if I can put that bit through. Okay, so I'm going to come back when the first one is fully done. Or maybe all 3 colors will be done. We'll see. Okay, so we have one finished first pass. And I actually really love it because you can still definitely see definition of different colors. The back is a little more neutral and maybe a little bit messy. So right now I'm trying to decide between just prepping them all like this and then just stripping off sections and spinning them in any order I want, or should I run this back through once at the end? And luckily, I don't have to make that decision yet. My thought process is that a second pass, although it will blend the colors more, it will also maybe make it a little more airy and opened up. Which is the ultimate goal, is to have it nice and airy and opened up and get as close to a woolen prep as I can. Now, I don't even know if that's true necessarily, but that's my thought process. But either way, I'm going to continue. I'm going to do all the rest of these into their own bats. I'm going to end up with 4 bats, a purple one, a brownish taupey earthy one, and then 2 of these blue ones. And then from there, we'll decide what direction we're going to go in. Okay, so that took a little while. And here are the 4 bats I ended up with. Again, they're not all the same size, but they're kind of similar. So I'm just going to open them up for a second. I need to determine if I'm going to do another pass or not. So those 2 are very similar. This one is turned out almost like uniform. I actually really love this color. It's like a perfect neutral. And then the purple. Like this. And all of them have little bits of each other. But what I think I'd like to do, there's still like sections that I feel like could benefit from more airiness. Like, what I really want to do is get that nice melty long draw. When you like pull, oh, my hands are almost a little bit dyed there. When you pull and it's just sort of melting into that beautiful single. This is very Sully coated, isn't it? From Monsters Inc. Love it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip these into strips, and then I'm going to feed thin strips probably, and then feed them in and do one more pass with the hope of, I'm not going to bother worrying about creating like 2 bats or 3 bats to do 2 or 3 plies. I think all I'm going to do is, now I'm kind of thinking. should I end up with ones, I don't want to be too intentional about it. But again, if I make 3 bats that are all the same and then ply them together, they're going to have the colors not mix and mingle at all, versus do I want one that has a little more variation in the colors. I'm going to have to think about it, but I am going to do another pass, and I know that for sure. But I want to stop and just kind of show you where we're at. Oh, I like the pops of purple in here. But yes, I think they're just a little too disconnected in pieces that I do feel like I need to do another pass. So I'm going to do that as my next step, and we'll see where I end up. I'm going to put a little bit of thought into how I'm going to spin and how I'm going to ply. If it's a 2-ply or a 3-ply, is it going to be fractal, or is it just going to be combined colors? I don't know. I'm going to have to think about it, and then I'll come back and show you what will be the finished bats and how I plan to spin them. Okay, so this might end up being a long video because I want you to come with me while I actually put these strips in. But it is crazy to me, pretty wild how much fiber expands when you're working with it. So I'm just going to move this over to the carder. I should have done this beforehand. Okay. But I feel like, let's just see if we can see the drum well enough. And all the mess in the background, of course. Okay, so what I feel like I'm going to do, now that I've looked at it, I've stripped it into strips, obviously. I think what I'd like to do is I'm going to do some different blends on the carder, and let the colors melt into each other a little bit. And then I'm going to just strip them into pieces and grab a random piece while I'm spinning and just kind of let it go from there. So that means let's just try one out and see how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to start. I've got more of the blue than anything, second most of this taupey color, and then third most of this. So again, trying to use what I've learned on this journey. I'm going to open this up a bit, draft it out. I'm just going to feed some of it in. See, I feel like it starts to get stuck, like the piece is just too long. So we'll go with like half a piece, half a strip. Okay, and then I'm going to put the other one. Again, I'm just going to kind of go by the feels. Actually, I'm going to put them both. I'm going to do a full strip in each spot. But I love the idea that each strip itself is going to be unique. And I'll put them in sort of in unique orders, and I'll strip them differently. And then sort of do like a roulette type version of when I'm actually going to spin it. I'm just going to reach into the basket and grab one. Now I will probably separate it by weight. I'll decide if I want to do 2-ply or 3-ply and separate it by weight, because I feel like that makes most sense to me, to try to maximize bobbin management use. Now again, I'm not pulling on it. Learned my lesson on that. I should have probably counted my strips to see how many I should put in each bat, but again, I don't think it really matters that much. I'm going to do another blue, and then a purple, and then see about maybe another blue. And again, I don't intend to make each bat the same either. I want to have this become randomized. Look at that. Can you see that? It looks so nice so far. This is going to be fun. And for anyone wondering, this is probably I know I'm not going very fast. I'm taking my time because I'm still learning and experimenting, but I think this has probably taken me an hour and a half so far. By the time it's done, I'm sure it will have been 2 hours at a minimum. And that's just to prep it. Prep something that technically is already prepped and you can spin right from a braid. But the part of this journey that I'm most excited about with having the drum carder now is the capability to convert braids into other things too, or that possibility at least. Because if you know me, if you've been on any of my stuff, you'll know I love playing with color, but not in like a totally wild way so much as I like to see what things do with each other. And experimenting with color is one of my favorite things, but I also really like to be practical about what I'm making and have it be something that I can use and find a use for. All right. So far on here, it's hard to see. Let me pull it to like here. But we've got blue, taupe, blue, purple, taupe. I'm going to put one blue on the end here, I think. And then I've just got to decide if I want to sort of reinforce any of these sections with a little bit more fiber on it to make it a little meatier. And once I experiment with the first one, oh, I can tell I put it maybe too close to the sides. Or was I pulling on it too much? Might be too close to the edge. Okay. Learning. Okay, I'm gonna pack it down. Now I don't think I've used even close to like a quarter of the fiber. Ideally I'd have about 4 bats and each bat would have around 25 to 30 grams on it. Oh my gosh, this looks so nice. I think what I'm gonna do is do another half strip of each color in the same spot. So I'll do a blue one there and there. Sometimes I wonder if I could feed it all in at once. I guess I could, I just don't know if it would control the colors in the same way or what. Maybe I'll try that for this pass. Shall we? And again, I am pre-drafting the strips just to help them not get stuck on the liquor and feed through really nicely. Okay, and then I just need 1/2 strip of the purple. Oh, I love this purple. I love purple and blue. Everyone knows it. I do not hide it. So my theory is, could I actually go like this and have all of them feed in at once? I believe my answer is yes. It may not be quite as precise, but again, precision isn't necessarily what I'm going for. I'm trying to kind of add an element of unpredictability. All right. I don't know. Feels like it's too much. Feels like it's too much fiber. I'm going to pull it back at least to draft it out more. Feels like it's just, yeah, a little too much in there all at once. What an interesting experiment, if not a little bit messy. It overall did kind of work. It did definitely randomize where things were a little bit. And I feel like it made it a little bit messier. It's disorganized. Look at that. But that is okay. I'll pull this bat off. And then after that, I'll just zippity through them and show you the rest. But look at this. Oh my gosh, I love this. I'm going to pull this off the liquor because it's a lot. Okay, I'm going to pause while I pull this off. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it because it's a really fun part. I get my tools. I have found I don't struggle nearly as much getting it off the drum when it's a nice fine wool, like a merino, especially if it's already been a combed top. It's actually pretty easy. Where some long wools, I'm really kind of pulling hard. Okay. One thing is for sure, as I pull this off, I can tell I'm not having any problems keeping sort of the colors separate from each other so that they're not muddy in the bat, which I think is great. They may still get muddy when they spin, and that's one thing I did find when I spun from one of these braids previously. The color combo, it was a combo spin with a different braid. It definitely got pretty muddy, and what that means is it means the color is kind of mixed together and you don't get clear color definition so much as just all the colors blended as one, and it just becomes a little, in this case it was a bluish brownish gray. Okay, let's look. This is the inside. Oh my goodness, I love it. I really love it. It feels like the braid, but just in a semi-woolen prep. And this is the top side. So this is the part that was furthest from the actual drum. It really does feel like braid. This is what I was talking about when I felt like I put too much in at once. I feel like it'll do better when I don't put that much in. But here it is. I'm going to do the rest of them. Again, maybe not in this exact color order, but I'm going to try to keep the stripes like this. And then when I spin it, I plan to break it off into chunks. So some chunks might, pick up some of the taupe and some of the blue. Some might be pretty pure. I'm not going to plan it too much. So I'm just going to rip strips off and put them into little buns, and then I'm going to spin them. And if you want to follow along with that, probably the easiest spot to do that is Instagram. I do a lot in my stories, and then every so often I'll do an actual post. And I will make sure that the finished yarn at least makes it into a story, makes it into a YouTube short so that you can see it. But hopefully you have enjoyed this. This has been a wild ride of I don't know what's going to happen. And this has been super fun, and I am really, 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 really happy with how this has turned out. Bye for now.